Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon. Welcome to the UK Skills Partnership's SkillsFest25, where we have a number of fantastic speakers showcasing UK expertise in skills and training. And doesn't matter where you are in the world, it's really good to have you on board watching this. This is the third of 11 sessions. I had to think about that then. Third of 11 sessions. So we are running Skills Fest every morning from 8 a.m. till 10 a.m. Monday to Friday this week, and also on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday we have a 12 o'clock session, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday we have a 4 p.m. session as well. Each of the sessions is very different, with a different group of speakers and a different range of organisations from the UK. So I'm really pleased to hold this event once a year and have such a showcase. Because it really shows the diversity and the complexity of the skills landscape, and how that applies on a global scale is really fascinating to me. And I think you'll see lots of case studies of it being applied around the world, just to demonstrate its flexibility and robustness at the same time, as well as delivering skills and impact. So it's one of the things I really, really love. Just a quick introduction to all of our speakers. They will then duck out and sit in the background, and obviously as each one it's their turn to speak, they will come back on. So from 2020 project management, we've got Tom Vincent and George Cameron. Hello, good morning or good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Nicola Wallwork from NSAN, the National Skills Academy for Nuclear. Hello, Nicola. Graham Hastings-Evans, he's the CEO of NOCN, awarding organisation. In fact, they're a group, so they've got a few arms to their body. Phillip Bryant from Energy and Utility Skills. Right. Jane Rexworthy, chair of the UK Skills Partnership, but also CEO of Skills for Inclusion Limited. And Tanya will join us a bit later. Tanya Popeau is from Synthesis. She will be on with us at around 1:15, something like that. So good range of speakers. Let's waste no more time. Tom and George, it is over to you for the first presentation. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon, and thank you for all coming to this presentation. George and I are going to share with you today the importance of developing your workforce, project understanding and commercial awareness. So when you consider it, the process of project management has quite frankly been around forever. Two examples you can see there on screen: the Great Wall of China and the Colosseum. They didn't happen by accident. Project management in its simplest form is making a plan, organising people and resources, and guiding the work so a specific goal is achieved on time and within budget. It isn't just global mega projects that are being delivered. Projects of every size and scale are being delivered every day, whether they're external commercial projects or internal business improvement projects. And the numbers are staggering. 90 million people worldwide are classified as working in project-orientated roles. And the challenge is that by 2030, less than 5 years, we need another 25 million people working in projects to deliver the expected demand. However, often employees are unaware that they're even being asked to work on a project and have not been trained to do so. And as a result, they don't utilize the necessary tools and techniques to manage it effectively and actually to maximize the benefit. So we've got all these projects delivered, and despite project management having been around for centuries, consistent project delivery is actually quite challenging, and the statistics are quite scary. You can see here on screen, 50% of projects go over budget, 65% fail to deliver their intended goals, and 70% are delivered late. Only in the last couple of decades have people really recognized that project management is a profession in its own right, and people have started to invest in driving consistent, manageable outputs. And many companies still don't recognize that project delivery is at the heart of every technical solution that they actually sell to market. So at 2020 Project Management, we transform organizations by developing project management and project control capability that drive real business results. We don't just train people, and we don't just train project managers, but we actually help build project maturity that creates a lasting organizational change. Our approach combines industry expertise along with practical application that is critical, to ensure that every investment in training actually translates directly to improved project outcomes and fundamentally improves the confidence of the teams delivering the projects. We've got over 2 decades of experience adding value, genuine value to our clients. As an example, a study by a law firm demonstrated that investing in project management training actually increased their project success by 40%. To put that in context, that's 40% more projects were delivered on time, to budget, and delivering the required scope. And the cost of that training delivered a 208% return on investment. Every year, we work with organisations across many sectors. You can see there on screen. We help veterans transition into project careers, and we partner with leading industry bodies from the energy, construction, nuclear and aerospace industries to develop their people. We're trusted by the industries to act on their behalf. I'm now going to hand you over to George to share how we transform project capability.
Hi everyone. At 2020, we believe the application of learning is at the very centre of personal development and gains in organisational maturity. We typically begin with a foundation of international best practice. We are then able to bring 29 core competencies and our clients' organisational governance together seamlessly to create training which adds immediate value. Our training team is made of real project experts who share a passion for developing others and want to promote the very best things about the world of projects. This allows us to directly focus on the key aspects of project management and control, which will deliver the most value to both the learners and parent organisations. Each learner will build a personal action plan based on what they've learned and what they believe they can apply directly to the workplace. This results in improvements in capability and confidence for learners and line managers, but also stimulates useful discussion and peer learning back in the workplace. You may have seen some of these quotes by Benjamin Franklin, or maybe seen his face on a $100 bill if you're lucky enough. It's certainly a different world to the one that saw Benjamin as a drafter or signatory to the Declaration of Independence. It's powerfully today as they did during his lifetime. The message is crystal clear. We need to plan carefully for the future, and we need to be committed to this adventure and endeavour. Project management as a discipline, of course, is very much based on the application of common sense. For all project-based organisations, one of the most important assets at their disposal is the skills and capabilities provided by their people. That being the case, we must surely recognise that we need to take a proactive approach to developing and preparing our people now to affect changes now and into the future. Let's face it, there's never a perfect time to focus on development. Our core business aims, of course, take precedence. However, the simple truth is that now is the time for action. The bucket of talent is already leaking. And if we fail to nurture the talent of tomorrow, then the future could be very dark for the project world. We need skills now, and we'll need a constant stream of skills moving forward into the future. Our blended learning model is meticulously designed to provide a comprehensive and effective approach to project management training. By integrating these key components, we ensure a dynamic learning journey that caters to diverse learning styles and real-world application. The online modules that we create provide a flexible foundation, allowing learners to acquire theoretical or academic knowledge at their own pace. This is seamlessly complemented by instructor-led workshops where participants engage in interactive discussions, problem-solving, and practical exercises, fostering deeper understanding and skill development. Next, interactive simulation offers invaluable opportunities to apply learned concepts in realistic project scenarios, allowing for risk-free practice and refining decision-making skills. Finally, the focus shifts to personal actions, empowering learners to develop individualised approaches and directly apply the knowledge to their specific work context, solidifying expertise and preparing professionals for complex project challenges. This integrated approach ensures that knowledge is not only gained, but also effectively applied and reinforced, leading to truly comprehensive project management excellence. At 2020, we are passionate about the project world and the talented individuals and teams that drive it forward. We're not a transactional training provider, rather a collaborative partner. We live by a core set of principles and values, and we take our responsibilities to our customers and learners extremely seriously. We're very good at this, and we're very good at this because we care. As you're about to see, our feedback stands as testament to the quality of what and how we deliver. If there's a project development or maturity problem to be addressed, then you need a partner that will provide you with both options and solutions, a partner you can trust and an end result you can measure. We believe that 2020 is that partner. I'm going to hand over to Tom once more.
Thank you, George. We're proud of the return on investment that we deliver, as George highlighted there. But we're also proud about the good that we give back to society. We're so confident of the benefits that we enable everyone we train to actually go and publicly rate us on FIFO. And we're really proud of the Gold Trusted Service Award that we received last year. And again, we're on target for this year to exceed that 4.6 out of 5 rating from everyone that we train across the piece. We're also really proud to have recently become a B Corp organisation, recognising our commitment to balancing purpose with profit and making a positive impact for people and the planet that we serve. But we also serve learning and development, and it's not just about improving project success and delivering a return on investment from that side. Retaining talent is really, really challenging for clients. And in a study done by a major construction company, one of our clients, they reported a 20% increase in employee retention once they implemented a project management academy and invested in their staff. So why? How? Well, they cited that people were far happier. They felt that they understood exactly what was required of them. They understood and were aware of the tools at their disposal to deliver projects. They spoke the same language as their colleagues and could consistently manage stakeholders' expectations and actually deliver what was agreed. That led to them being a lot happier. And lastly, our programs are award-winning. DXC, one of our clients, is just one example of an organisation we've helped. By investing in their people, they're building confidence, capability, and a workforce ready for the future. And that's the real power of project management training. It changes careers, strengthens businesses, and creates leaders for tomorrow. And that's the journey that we're proud to share with every one of our clients. So thank you very much for attending our presentation. Please scan the relevant QR codes to go and have a look at our LinkedIn page. We often share thought-provoking content and helpful tips to drive project success. We're also thought leaders in this space, and we actively give back to the community that we serve. And lastly, please reach out to our team if you'd like to discuss anything surrounding your project delivery and how we might be able to add value to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tom and George. Really interesting presentation. I'm particularly kind of thinking about the onward impact of project management training. Like you said, it's a bit broader than just focusing on project management per se. You know, you've got a broader set of skills there that you're thinking about. And I just wondered, have you got any case studies of particular overseas training that you've delivered that might be relevant to the call today, that you might just be able to set one out?
Yeah, absolutely. We work with a number of global organisations from sectors like the oil and gas industry, aerospace defence. But yeah, really, we deliver courses against accredited standards, but we also deliver bespoke programs for companies based on their tools and processes. So one of our largest organisations, who have got 70,000 employees and work across every region of the world, we deliver a bespoke 5-day program that it sometimes is delivered in a block of 5 and sometimes split over a number of weeks. And that delivers over an interactive session virtually over that period of time, their tools, processes, techniques. So they've all got the same benchmark capability, understand where to access their tools, how to deliver the projects in a consistent manner. So yeah, we do it all the time, and it's the outputs are great. Yeah, hopefully that answers the question, Jonathan.
Yeah, thanks very much indeed. And thank you both for coming along. Do kick around. We will want you back at the end of this morning or this afternoon session so that you can take some questions, hopefully, from our audience. So thanks very much indeed. Next up, we've got Nicola Wallwork. She's from the National Skills Academy for Nuclear, otherwise known as NSAN. So Nicola, as always, great to have you on board. Over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jonathan, for inviting NSAN back for I think this is our 4th Skills Fest. So thank you very much for organising and pulling together this week's sessions. Over the next 15 minutes, I'm going to share with you how we at NSAN are helping organisations, large and small, build the skills they need to take advantage of the opportunities in the growing global nuclear sector. But first, a little bit about NSAN. NSAN has been pivotal in providing training solutions to the UK's nuclear, civil and defence industry since 2008. As an employer-led organisation, NSAN's courses and programmes are designed and cultivated to deliver a competent and skilled workforce. In response to advancements in technology, particularly around small modular reactors and the global shift towards a greener future, NSAN has created a comprehensive package of support that is not only accessible within the UK, but also extends to various international markets. Through collaboration and the strength of our networks, we're committed to tackling workforce challenges and delivering the skills that will power a thriving nuclear future. So you may be aware there's a bit of a nuclear renaissance going on currently, both here in the UK and internationally, providing some great opportunities for companies to move into nuclear, as well as a wealth of opportunities for people to upskill or reskill into nuclear jobs. Here in the UK, in the summer, Rolls-Royce SMR won the UK competition and was selected by Great British Energy Nuclear to deliver the UK's first SMRs, supporting in excess of 3,000 jobs and powering 3 million homes. There's also major new build projects underway with a 14 billion investment by UK government in Sizewell C, creating 10,000 jobs during construction and powering 6 million homes. Alongside this is the ongoing construction of Hinkley Point C, creating 25,000 jobs in its construction phase and 900 jobs once operational. In addition, only last week, there was a series of announcements on new SMR projects in Tyneside and Hartlepool, with nuclear also being positioned to power the next generation of AI-ready data centres, providing secure, low-carbon electricity 24/7. In terms of decommissioning work and moving the UK's ageing nuclear fleet into retirement, these activities will outlive us all on the call today, as clean-up of nuclear sites can take in excess of 80 years. So what does that mean for skills and the demand on skills? Today in the UK's nuclear industry, our workforce stands at around 83,000 people. To meet both civil and defence nuclear ambitions, the sector will need to fill 40,000 new jobs by 2030, which means doubling current recruitment rates. Looking internationally, global momentum is building, with 61 nuclear reactors currently under construction worldwide, with another 108 reactors planned and 359 proposed. Countries including the US, Canada, France, China, India, Japan, Sweden and Poland, to name just a few, are investing heavily in nuclear new build and SMRs to strengthen energy security and deliver net zero. So what's the key takeaway? For me, the key takeaway is nuclear is no longer niche. It's central to clean energy, digital infrastructure and job creation, For employers and training providers, the opportunity is here now, but that success depends on skills readiness and collaboration. So, why enter nuclear? It's about stability, long-term contracts that span decades. It's about working with cutting-edge technology and expertise. It's about collaboration with some of the most innovative organisations in the world. And it's about building your credibility in operating in one of the most highly regulated industries. Of course, the sector can look complex and daunting from the outside, and that's where NSAN comes in. We provide the training, insight and practical support companies need to navigate the nuclear world and succeed. How do we do this? Well, one of the ways we do this is through our Insight to Nuclear programme. This is a 5-week programme designed for companies with little or no nuclear experience, aimed at providing them with an insight of what is required to work in the nuclear industry. It's delivered in small cohorts with expert guidance, covering everything from nuclear safety and security to regulatory compliance, supply chain expectations and procurement processes. At the end, hopefully, companies are equipped with the confidence and understanding to make an informed decision about whether nuclear is the next step for them. Alongside that, we have our GAIN programme, Growing Awareness in Nuclear, where Insight to Nuclear is aimed at companies. This programme is all about upskilling people. GAIN is an affordable and flexible way to ensure new graduates, apprentices or career changers get a comprehensive awareness of the nuclear industry. It gives people the whole sector view, split into 3 units covering nuclear history, science, energy generation, decommissioning and waste management, with then optional workshops and seminars delivered by subject matter experts. Some of those topics you can see on the right-hand side of the slide there, but cover things like human performance, nuclear security, safety cases, and safety culture. The GAIN programme can be delivered in classroom or completely remotely over 4 days. Over the last 4 years, more than 3,000 learners have taken part in a GAIN programme, and some of the organisations we have delivered to can be seen on this slide. These range from large site licence organisations to small supply chain companies. The impact of GAIN in terms of upskilling new entrants has been so successful that we've been working with one of our members, Amentum, formerly Jacobs, over the last 3 years to create their own version of GAIN, which they have called the Amentum New to Nuclear Academy. I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to share with you a quick case study. Amentum, for those that are not aware, is a large international organisation delivering engineering and technology solutions for customers across science, security and sustainability sectors, with a focus on defence, nuclear energy and space exploration. 3 years ago, they reached out to NSAN as they were facing a big challenge. They had new contracts to deliver, but were fishing in a very small talent pool. So they decided to look outside of nuclear, bringing in people from diverse sectors, from oil and gas and aerospace to hospitality and teaching. And you can see some of the case studies on the screen there. What they did, they took people with transferable skills, but with no prior nuclear experience or knowledge. We then delivered the NSAN 4-day GAIN programme with a top-up of bespoke masterclasses and workshops delivered over a 12-week period, helping them to reskill over 240 people. The result? Not only did it demonstrate to the UK nuclear regulator that Momentum has competent resources to deliver projects, but also those new recruits hit the ground running in nuclear projects, filling critical gaps and proving that cross-sector reskilling really does work. And we're not just working in the UK. We've adapted these programmes internationally, supporting Momentum in Australia, Poland and Norway, with the first delivery of the Momentum New to Nuclear Academy being delivered in Australia earlier this year to support the upskilling of people working on the AUKUS programme. Bespoke workshops were developed and delivered on nuclear propulsion in submarines, security, CFSI and safety culture. In addition, NSAN have also recently signed a partnership with Saskatchewan Polytechnic in Western Canada to license NSAN courses and training to support them to develop a skilled workforce to deliver their very ambitious SMR programme, taking them from no current position of no nuclear skills and capability to a fully operational small modular reactor by 2030. In addition, we're also working with UK embassies in Slovenia and Slovakia to share UK expertise abroad. So this isn't just a UK story, it's very much a global movement. Integral to all of this, though, is NSAN's nuclear training network, and it's fantastic to see one of our members of our nuclear training network 2020 on the session this afternoon. Our nuclear training network is one of NSAN's most powerful assets, a collaborative membership that brings together the very best of training providers to meet the needs of the nuclear sector. What makes this network so effective is its breadth and depth. It covers every aspect of nuclear training, from technical skills such as operations, technology, manufacturing and regulatory compliance, to essential areas like project management, leadership, safety culture and human factors. Because the network draws on trusted, accredited training providers, employers can be confident that the training is not only of the highest quality, but also consistent, industry relevant, and adaptable to evolving technologies and global demands. This means that whether it's inducting new starters, upskilling experienced professionals, or preparing teams for future developments like SMRs, the network can deliver. In short, NSAN's nuclear training network is about giving the sector the right skills at the right time in the right place, ensuring that the nuclear workforce of today and tomorrow is competent, resilient and ready to deliver a thriving nuclear future. So to wrap up, nuclear is clearly an industry full of opportunity, but it's also one that demands high standards. At NSAN, our role is to bridge that gap, to help companies enter nuclear with confidence and to equip people with the skills they need to thrive. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. If you'd like to continue the conversation, please do scan the QR code and connect with us. Thanks, Jonathan.
Amazing. Really well done. And covering such a lot of areas of training. I see there's a question in the chat actually about delivering this training into other sectors outside of nuclear. I mean, do you work with other companies outside or on the fringes or in the supply chain of nuclear to be able to deliver any of these programs, Nicola?
Yeah, great question, Jonathan, actually. And we're just exploring currently how we can take the structure and basis of the GAIN programme, Growing Awareness in Nuclear, and deliver that to support the growing hydrogen agenda. So what I would say, if there is anybody on the call today that would be interested that potentially doesn't work in nuclear, please do reach out because we'd love to have a conversation with you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much indeed, Nicola. Thank you to the National Skills Academy for Nuclear as well. Brilliant team effort. Next up is Graham Hastings-Evans, the CEO of NOCN Awarding Organisation, part of the NOCN group. Hello, Graham. A very good afternoon to you. How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks very much, Jonathan, for inviting us. Now I need to get my slides up, which will be my first challenge. But let's hope that happens. It's great to be here. Thanks very much for the opportunity to talk to you.
No problem. We can see your slides and hear you. So away you go, Graham.
Right. Okay. And they're in slide mode. Yeah. Is that fine? Yeah. You can see it.
Yep. Carry on.
Super.
Yep, please. Yeah.
What I'm going to do is talk about empowering the green workforce and what we've been doing and others are doing around that. And perhaps I'm going to start with what actually is the green workforce. So let's just look at, if we are reducing carbon, what does that mean? It has an enormously widespread impact across everything we do. It affects the houses that we build and live in and maintain. It affects power stations, and we've just had a very good presentation on nuclear. It affects the way we run our cities, the way we transport ourselves around the world through either cars or trains or boats or planes or whatever. It affects the way we handle our physical environment and our rivers and our water supply. So it has a really, really enormous impact. And therefore, it affects the skills of a number of disciplines to achieve that. Some ways it affects probably all of us. You know, the way which shampoo we use for our hair, what do we do in terms of our daily living, but the massive impact is obviously around the way we move around the planet, how we live, the quality of the housing and that we live in, and the way we generate and distribute and conserve energy. So those are major themes, and they have impacts for people that work in construction, in engineering, in manufacturing, in digital sciences, and the whole area of technology. So all of those affect our ability to develop a workforce that can support the move to green and a net zero economy. If we start to look at some of the challenges around that, and I've mentioned the wide range of subjects, and we just look at, just say, for example, one, which is construction workers. There are currently 232 million construction workers across the globe. Expectations, projections are that will increase, or demand will increase, for perhaps another 50% over the next 5 years. India alone will need 30 million more construction workers over the next 5 years. And there are two massive drivers. You know, why is that happening? One is obviously the move to net zero. We're having to rebuild things. We're having to build new things. We're having to massively retrofit lots of the ways that lots of our buildings, lots of our assets. So an enormous change is driving that increase in the number of people. But also we've got economic growth, perhaps not so big in Europe, but actually when we get into the Middle East, Africa, Middle East, Indian subcontinent, the SAARC countries, Southeast Asia and China, enormous growth rates. India, 7%. People are becoming better off. They're wanting better homes. They're driving cars. When I first went to India 40 years ago, hardly anybody had a car. Now families have 4 cars. So this enormous change in economic growth is adding to that pressure in terms of the workers. And we need all of those new skills in terms of all the ways that we're now trying to decarbonize. So use of solar, use of wind, use of bio, use of nuclear, changing our vehicles, actually improving the way we manage water around the world. All of that is present. Yet there is a massive lack in facilities, tutors and content. So we've got a major challenge right the way across the world to sort of respond to how do we do that. And I've got 2 case studies. One is around some of the initiatives we've done in the UK to try to tackle those. That's called GSAP, and then I'm going to talk to you about some case studies that we've done in the Gulf around solar in this particular example. So UK has had that problem. How do we start to grow the green skills within our workforce? And this started as an initiative approaching 3 years ago now in the southwest of England, where they were actually brought together by Exeter College, ourselves, some of the universities and employers, and we started to develop a network approach which involved all of the necessary agencies, the government agencies, charities, training providers, everybody. What is it we need to do practically on the ground to start to improve the capacity of our workforce to support the move to net zero? So we started that. It's been quite a success. We've got off the ground, lots of people being trained, lots of companies starting to gain more and more green skills. It's been a real positive because we've been able to do this in a way that matches the need, and the need is changing all the time. So you've got to have a way of doing that, and GSAP has proved to be successful at doing that. So from that sort of little acorn, yes, in the southwest of England, we now have GSAPs all over mainly over the UK. But we actually are having GSAP set up in Malawi, Nepal, Morocco, and there's ongoing. So it's an idea which is capturing people across the globe, because you need an initiative, you need a way of working that helps you develop those green skills. It's not just about, oh, we've got to write a qualification or we've got to invent a training course. Everybody needs to buy into it. It's got to deliver what employers want. It's got to deliver what the workforce wants. What governments want. So the GSAP approach does that. It's a really good example of joint working across all of the people within a sector. So that's been really a really good way of doing things. And I think out of that, what we've been doing is start to identify what are the major areas. This will change country by country. Solar is big. Actually in the UK. You might not believe it with all the rain we get, but actually it is. Low carbon insulation in terms of protecting our homes, reducing the amount of energy that's lost, being much more clever about the way we conserve energy and how that works. Nuclear, we've had a great presentation on that. Wind, that's important to us. And the move towards clean hydrogen and how that affects things, as well as electric vehicle technologies. So all of those are really important. Now, we work in about 30 different countries across the globe. We're working out in the Far East, India, and the Middle East. Generally, what we're finding is the issues are the same, regardless of what the country is. The core skills, the core needs of this move transcend different parts of the world. Yeah. 90% of the skills are the same, regardless of where you are. And the big issues that the people are addressing in terms of the move to a greener economy are the same. So they touch into all of these sorts of areas. And they're starting to drive a need to change our skills in the people that work in civil engineering, the people that work in infrastructure, the people that work in building houses and developing houses and commercial buildings, the manufacturers that make things for us to build things, the goods and services that we use, and it's driving changes in all of those areas. So the priority we've found so far is that's becoming a progressive thing. A large amount of effort currently has been going into solar, hydrogen and wind. These are the big ticket items where I think governments and the economy see we can make progress, but also as well as courses that help people on solar, help people on wind. People are starting to realize that they need short courses. So we are developing and have developed a wide range of them. I'll give you a couple of examples there, but that's growing because we have a massive workforce. that workforce needs to be developed. It's not just about bringing in new people and training them, a new entrance into the workforce. We've got a massive challenge of upskilling that existing workforce. Those 232 million construction workers, a lot will need upskilling, and we're going to have to do that by short courses, micro credentials training, and the use of online training, and developing those sorts of skills. So those are starting to emerge currently as the priorities. Those priorities will change as time goes on. More and more, as we see the developments that we've heard about in nuclear, we're going to start to see more training in terms of nuclear and smaller nuclear reactors. So things will change, but at the moment, these are the big ticket items that people have been focusing on. And in order to achieve that, you've got to start to have some online courses that help people to understand what the challenge is, what they might start to do that. And we, with GSAP and others, have been developing a whole range of those courses to support that move. I'd like to now touch on one of the case studies that we've had in the Gulf. One can understand the Gulf's a very hot country, a lot of sun. You could say the same is true of ASEAN and the SAARC countries, India, etc. But we've been involved heavily within solar over the last 5 to 6 years, and we've got a great case study. This is where we developed a program with Gulf countries to actually start to build a workforce that could start installation of solar. Now, we've got a number of courses, but I'm just picking this one. This is to help develop and build a workforce for actual installation and maintenance of that. So we did that. We did that jointly with organisations in the Gulf, including regulatory organisations and others, and governments and government funding. So we started this, and it started to move really quite quickly because the demand was clearly there. They needed to build a workforce effectively from scratch in their terms. So we started to say, how do we get people? Where do we get them from? So we've got people that have done some engineering qualifications, or diploma holders, as they call them, some experienced technicians, which might have been working. So we start to gather people that might have some of the starting skills in which we can move to develop that initial workforce. Because, and we'll see this right the way across the whole of green skills and the move to net zero, people may have qualifications and experience already, and you're just building upon that. Yeah, and that's true of much of what we're going to see within the move to net zero. It's building upon something. So we started with what were sensible entrance requirements to bring people into the sector. We then started to develop what do they need to know, and we've got a practical approach and we've got a theoretical approach. So these people are going to have to be able to install solar farms, either individual solar panels, individual homes, which many of us may see in the UK, or to start to build solar farms, which we do see in a number of countries. We work extensively in India. Many of the international airports in India are driven completely by solar. So you'll see fields and fields full of solar panels surrounding the airport that are driving all the electricity. So you've got to be able to install them. So we've got to teach people on how to do that, and to be able to know that they can do it. They've got to then be able to commission those and put them into operation. They need to be operated and maintained, and we need to ensure they match all the necessary regulatory requirements. So that was the challenge. Let's start to train people to do all of that. So we developed the courses and we moved forward. We also wanted to get people to understand practically what does that mean. So we started to take them out to sites so they could see what was happening. We actually started to train them practically, and we then moved on to assessing them, making sure those are practical assessments to make sure they can deliver what we want, as well as theoretical assessments. And we then gave feedback, so people knew what they might need to improve themselves on and what to develop. So the whole thing worked all the way through, and that then led us to an internship right at the end, which was a real practical thing. Right, we're now putting you fully in the work environment for a day. Make sure you're ready. Yes. And from there, all of these people have ended up working, and we've now been repeating this cycle time after time after time, and it's worked really well to take people that perhaps might have some of the skills to deliver a green environment, pitch them onto solar, and actually turn them into a real good, sustainable solar energy workforce. Thank you very much. I hope you found that of interest. If you'd like to know more, then please contact us at international@nocn.org.uk.
Graham, as always, brilliant presentation. Thank you. Green skills, of course, one of the major priorities around the globe at the moment, and certainly on my travels, I get lots of requests relating to green skills related type activities. So it's always really, really interesting when I hear about the work that NOCN is doing in this space, which I know is extensive and covers multiple countries. So it's really, really good. Graham, are you experiencing as well that actually, you know, regardless of the kind of situation that is happening in each country and regardless of the targets that each country is setting, actually the problems are about the same in each country with regards to skills development in this sector? Yes,
I think it is. I think an interest in the first question is that employers ask, what are green skills? So you have to go through the explanation that I started to do a little bit of at the beginning. And I think there are virtually no differences depending on which region of the world you're in, let alone which country. There's 95% is the same problem wherever you go. Yeah. And I think it's a mindset thing as well, right? So I think with older people, it's probably harder message to get through because we're from a different world, as it were, in some respects. Although you could argue, we had glass milk bottles and we were better at recycling in them days. But let's move on from that argument. But I guess young people are brought up because, thinking right from the outset, it's a bit like with technology generally as well. If you want to know how to use an iPad, give it to a 3-year-old and they'll show you. Whereas for us, it takes a little longer. And the same is true of green skills because, it's their planet, it's their future. And they see it like that way, Jonathan. But yeah, they are much more focused. Yeah. Brilliant. Good. Which is Thank you, Graham. Do stick around. We want you back on for the questions and answers, and hopefully we will get some questions from everyone that is listening. So thanks very much indeed. Cheers, Moving on, we've got Phillip Bryant now from Energy and Utility Skills on board. So hello, Phillip. Are you there?
Hello. Thank you, Jonathan.
Can see your slides. Yeah, great.
Are the slides showing correctly?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So in this session, we're going to be talking to you a project that we're working on, which is creating a free-to-use online resource. It's going to be a collection of occupational profiles that relate to the energy and utility sector. Kind of power through on this. Can I check, is the view that you're seeing, is that of this the full screen slides, or is it the one that's got all the notes that are accompanying it? Just so I
no, it's the full screen one. So carry on as normal.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, so just to introduce who we are as the organisation, we Energy and Utility Skills are the skills body for the energy and utility sector. We act as a standard setting body and the employee representative. And for those of you who aren't overly familiar with this, the energy and utility sector encompasses industries that provide all of the UK's essential services. So it's electricity, gas, water and waste management. It will cover the generation, transmission and distribution of energy, the supply and treatment of water, and the collection and recycling of waste. So it is a sector that is vital to everyday life. It supports national infrastructure, and it plays a key role in achieving the key government priorities and policies around sustainability, net zero goals, and providing a sustainable supply of energy and utilities. It's a major employer, so there is an offering of a range of different career opportunities. It is a sector that drives innovation through emerging technologies, and it's at the forefront of innovation in areas like hydrogen power, hydrogen storage, the use of smart grids for the energy system across the UK. And the project that we are working on, and which I was going to talk to you about today, is one that will create a comprehensive record of different job roles that exist across that broad industry sector. And then for each role, we are going to provide an industry-agreed definition for what competency looks like. It will include information about careers and both entry points and progression. And it will be a resource that will be there for all stakeholders to be able to access and use, free of charge, open source. The intention is for this to enable smarter recruitment and training, qualification development, and career planning. So the sector is at a pivotal moment, working towards some ambitious social and environmental goals around net zero and sustainability. The need for a skilled and agile and inclusive workforce has never been greater. The UK energy and utility sector must recruit over 312,000 skilled workers by 2030, and that's to meet growing infrastructure demands, support the transition to net zero. And this has highlighted a significant and urgent skill shortage, both in the training of existing staff, but attracting new people into the industry sector. It is an area or a sector that has been undergoing and will continue to undergo rapid transformation. And so this is either technological innovation, sustainability goals, the need to modernise and repair infrastructure, and changes in government policy and priorities. And in the face of all those changes and drivers, it's critical that employers can deploy a skilled workforce that is agile, so it can adapt to changes, the workforce that can adapt to help them meet the challenges that they face, but also so that that workforce can remain safe and productive and compliant. And our objective through this project is to support employers to raise workforce capability and to increase organisational productivity. This system that we are developing, which I'll tell you more about as we go through, is the intention and the vision for this is to provide and enable more effective recruitment, training and skills development. It will provide people with more of an understanding of the career opportunities that exist and how they can enter the workforce, the qualifications that exist and the routes to competency. It will support employers in the retraining and redeployment of workers. And it will enable employers to be able to pick out the training pathways and qualifications that are most closely matched and aligned with the skills requirement that the jobs require. We're going to achieve those aims through this comprehensive occupational map for the energy and utility sector. So as I mentioned before, this will be free to use. It'll be an online resource. It's going to be a collection of occupational profiles that for each of the jobs will define competency, provide information about the careers, and then help to inform that career and recruitment planning. It will allow employers not only in the UK but internationally, and training providers both here and overseas, to be able to look at and use these UK industry standards to inform training and recruitment and development of staff. It will also, and more critically, this tool that we're developing will allow users to compare jobs and profiles. So, for example, they'll be able to look at where they're working today, the job they want to move to, and the system then will allow them to identify what knowledge and skills they already have, and so which are transferable, but it will also tell them about what the gaps are. So what the delta is between the job they're doing today and the job they want to do in the future. That's a tool, obviously, that employers and training providers can use as well. So it will allow, through that comparison, to inform the training that workers need. So it will support them in any workforce transition. It will be able to inform how employers train existing industry workers based on what sector or subsector they've come through. We also see this as well as being a resource that will be able to be used and developed. So, for example, colleagues at NOCN who've just been talking about the qualifications that they provide, this will be a resource for them to be able to think about where qualifications want to be developed. It will feed into the production of apprenticeship standards, industry schemes, and training programs, either run by employers or by independent training providers. So what you'll see when these are published is an industry standard. So for each role, it will list out the tasks that someone will need to be able to perform in order to be deemed competent. And then for each of those tasks, it will answer the key questions of, to perform that task safely and competently, what do they need to know? And then what do they need to be able to do? So the knowledge and the skills. It will contain information around jobs, so workforce data, around typical locations, mandatory qualifications, salary information, workforce size and locations. And then the mapping will be able to link the different profiles together to show what the transition from one job into another would look like. To deliver this, there's a number of principles that will underpin how we work. So this will be something that is produced and delivered across all of the different energy and utility sectors that we operate in. It will reflect both traditional and emerging technologies. It will work across all UK nations, so it will be a 4-nation solution where we make sure that we reflect all of the different regional variations and that it is equally applicable in all parts of the UK. It's going to be genuinely industry and employer driven. So it'll be employers who are informing the standards that we provide and identification of the skills and the knowledge that are required for that. We'll be looking to the future. So this is not just about the roles that exist today, but it's what roles will need to be there 5 to 10 years from now to provide that sustained workforce. So we'll be working with industry experts and employer representation to understand where do they see the skill shortages in the future, how will they need their workforce to evolve, and then making sure that there are standards and occupational profiles in place to support that. We're developing this to sit within existing educational and funding systems so that employers and training providers are able to use these as easily and conveniently as possible within the structures that they currently operate. And it is something, obviously, in terms of the session today, it is something that we can then work with any international or overseas employers to understand how these can support their work, their workforce development, and making sure that we can support them as well as supporting the UK employers and organisations. So this is just a visual representation. It won't actually look like this when these are published, but it's just to give you an idea as to the level of information that will exist. It will contain all of the information, so broadly across each sector. It'll then be broken down by industry and sub-industry. There'll be the occupations and the job titles that these are known as. And what it will mean is that someone coming in and using this resource could search for profiles that exist either based on the sector or subsector that they are interested in. They'll be able to search by the job titles if they wanted to look for a particular job role, or they could search based on particular bodies of knowledge or skills or tasks and to see what job opportunities exist from there or which job titles are relevant to that. It'll be something they'll be able to search by qualification and training route as well. So if someone's got a particular qualification or has done training in the past, it will allow them to be able to get an idea as to what kind of roles that would qualify them for, or if this is a new area for them, what types of qualifications and routes to competency would exist to support that transition and the ambition to move into that role. And that's the end of my presentation. I hope that's been interesting for you and useful. I'll put my contact details on screen. So happy for, obviously, at the end of the session, anyone's got any questions, but also if anyone wants to reach out to me to understand more, to speak about this and to think about how they might be able to contribute, or use what we're producing, then my contact details there for you.
Phillip, thank you so much indeed. Really always useful to understand the scope of work that energy and utility skills covers, but particularly interested in competency statements. How do people get to use those overseas and embed them into their companies or into their training in an international setting?
Well, we'll be looking at a particular job role, and then we will kind of list out the tasks, and then it is the expressing them in such a way that is genuinely transferable. So we obviously want to make sure these are relevant across all the UK, but these then would be the same and equally applicable to anybody, regardless of where they are in the world. I think what will change is that in some areas of the world, some of the regulation and legislation that workers may need to comply with or have an understanding of, but the key practical competencies would be the same. And so what employers would be able to think of is, okay, well, that particular piece of legislation isn't relevant for our jurisdiction, but the need to comply with legislation is still a relevant competency, and we just need to make sure they understand what legislation or what regulations need to be complied with.
Thanks very much indeed, Phillip. Really good to have you here today. As with all the others, please stay around to the end and we will bring you back in for a questions and answers session. Next up is the chair of the UK Skills Partnership, the fantastic Jane Rexworthy OBE. She also runs her own company called Skills for Inclusion Limited. So Jane, a very good afternoon. Lovely to have you here contributing to SkillsFest.
Thank you very much for having me here, and good morning, good afternoon to those around the world, and even perhaps good evening. So I'm just checking, Jonathan, you can see my presentation. Perfect.
Okay. All good.
So just want to, I'm wearing two hats, as Jonathan said today. So my presentation is going to be in two elements. One, to explain a little bit about Skills for Inclusion and the offer that we have, and then to move on to the UK Skills Partnership, which is such an incredible platform for us all here at SkillsFest today, but for everyone else out there internationally to access the best of the UK in terms of skills providers, skills solutions. So thank you for joining this particular session. So just to add some context, I've been privileged to work in the international space now for over a decade and a half, so for many years, and in that time I've worked in over 50 countries. And one of the things that really struck me in the work that I've done, and it's common across the world, in the UK, anywhere that we go, that inclusion is fundamental to success for business growth, for individual, economic and social inclusion. And so I wanted to put together an organisation that would allow us to really look at how, when we're working in different countries, we could really embed the skills solution aspect. And so we work collaboratively with governments, with donor funders, development banks, non-governmental organisations, educational organisations and institutes, and local partners to really bring to life what we mean by inclusion. So now, just to note that, of course, we all have inclusion needs, every one of us in the workforce today, with the quick and speedy movement of AI, digitalisation, green sustainability. We are lacking the skills we need to be as productive, successful in the workplace and in our home lives, and to look after our planet. And we've heard a lot about that in the session so far today. And so to really consider how we support individuals, we really need to understand the problems. We have skills gaps, all of us, probably at least 20% of skills gap in our own work life. But if we look at what happens in the global setting, this really comes to life. Over nearly 250 million children and youth are out of school. They're what we call NEETs, not in education, not in employment. These are individuals that are not gaining the skills required to be economically active. That's a huge challenge, and girls are much more likely to be excluded from education, especially in countries like sub-Saharan Africa that have very, very high youth populations. Only 1 in 4 countries has gender parity. We see women disadvantaged all across the globe, and that's an area that many organisations that we work closely with want to address, and that's where our skills solutions need to come in with that inclusive aspect. We also see that people with disabilities are much more likely not only to have never attended school, but also to fail to access sustainable employment, good employment, and yet the skills that they can bring are incredible. When we start thinking of the new digital age, we have 2.6 billion people in the world that remain offline. So whilst we think it's a natural that everyone has accessibility to digital platforms, we still have such a high percentage of the population across the world that don't have access in that way, already disadvantaged by geography. And women are again much more likely to not have access to digital formats in mobile phones, etc. And when we start thinking about workforce participation, the results of having the challenge around education and skills, not having the skills that are required, and also the lack of access to digital means that a lot of those populations, marginalised groups, women in particular, struggle to access meaningful, gainful employment. And that's an area that most of our development banks, our global non-governmental organisations are really keen to address. And that's where we as the UK come in with some incredible solutions that can be truly inclusive. There are, of course, other inclusion dimensions with the world's challenges politically and the wars that we're seeing. There are many refugees who are completely disadvantaged. I've been privileged and humbled to work with many of these. And not only are they displaced from the education, but also access to meaningful, gainful employment. And the other challenge, of course, we have, which is being addressed sometimes through digital means, but is language. We do find that many individuals don't have access, and that's 40% of the global population, to education in a language they understand. That seems impossible from the Western world to imagine that, but it shows that when we are looking at solutions, we have to consider all of these aspects. And that's what Skills for Inclusion is about. We're a bank of incredible associates, people that work and live in various different parts of the world that come with, I think we have over 250 years of experience between us of working in this international space, considering the challenges that I have just mentioned in the statistics. And so what we do is we come together, we work with partners, we work with organisations that we've heard from today and others that are part of the Skills Fest, as well as other organisations in the international space, to make sure that we can support very robust labour market intelligence, that we create industry-led skills models, and our sector skills councils that we have in the UK are incredible benchmarks of the world around that. And then we enable that certification and professional recognition through the excellence of our certification bodies, our chartered institutes that we have access to. So we're very fortunate at Skills for Inclusion that we have access to not only our own associates, but these partners as well. So whilst we're a new organisation, our experience comes from many years. We've been able to undertake in the last 12 months a number of really important aspects of work. One is supporting organisations to scope the opportunity to expand in the international markets. We've also had the opportunity to work on some really interesting partnership projects, and there's one that I'd like to share with you today, and that's regarding a very recent opportunity that came up in Uzbekistan for a nursing college stroke university for medical and non-medical experts in the healthcare professions. And it came through to myself when I was in Uzbekistan on a visit over a year ago, where we were asked, I was personally asked to come back to the UK and bring together a number of UK partners that could provide the skills solutions to be able to set up a nursing college. We went over in May. We took 10 partners, including universities, colleges, migratory organisations providing platforms and educational platforms, and English language experts. We had a very, very productive study trip where we were able to scope out the requirement and need. Now, if one of us had gone to do that individually, we wouldn't have had the success that we've had so far. So last week, we were delighted to receive our client back into the UK and to be able to share and show all of the different expertise that we are now able to bring to the table and support them as they develop their college, university. So very exciting new opportunity, but very exciting that we've been able to do that in such strong collaboration with our partners here. That's been very heavily supported by the Department of Business and Trade. So I don't want to forget that we have a number of key partners that really help us to make this happen. And so the work that we do at Skills for Inclusion is in partnership, it's in collaboration, and it's about going into and accessing different opportunities in countries and coming back and working with the UK Skills Partnership to make it happen. And as part of one of our, I think, most important aspects at Skills for Inclusion is really to provide a voice. And we're calling it our Inclusive Voice podcasts. And we're just about to launch our first series of podcasts. And we're really proud and just want to let you know that very shortly you'll be able to listen in to some of our incredible stakeholders and practitioners that not only deliver solutions in this area, but also are able to demonstrate what it's like to live with some of these challenges that people find, whether they have disability or non-visible disabilities that can't be seen. So we're very excited to bring that to our international market. Now I'd like to move to, I think, one of the most important aspects that every provider that we have in the UK, everyone that delivers a skills solution, a business solution that changes the lives of others in other countries, should be part of. And I'm delighted that Skills for Inclusion has gained its membership as an associate member of the UK Skills Partnership, where we bring together all of the experts that we have in the UK, and we share that information with our embassies around the world, with different governmental organisations, to ensure that they are very clear about what we can do as individual organisations and also as collective partnership organisations as well. And this is an amazing platform, and Jonathan, who's obviously hosting the session today and will be too shy to say, has done an enormous amount of work on the behalf of the Department for Business and Trade in bringing our website to life, being able to demonstrate exactly what it is that we're able to offer to other countries around the world. And so, as being the privilege of being chair of the UK Skills Partnership, I was really delighted, as I was last year, to attend the Education World Forum. Jonathan and I sat down with over 17 countries that were visiting the Education World Forum and had very detailed conversations to scope out their needs and requirements to move forward. And from that, we've been able to share that information with different individuals and certainly our partners and our members that sit on the UK Skills Partnership to ensure that we can pull together the offer that's required. So for those of you that are not an associate member at this point in time, you need to be, because this is our platform for sharing what it is we have in the UK that can support our incredible partnerships that we have with countries around the world in helping them to move and change the skills in their country and provide that economic and social inclusion that is so important to us all. So thank you very much for listening. I'm very happy to answer any questions.
Jane, as always, thank you very much indeed. Really great, as always, for you to come on board because of your wealth of experience that you have in the international arena. So it's really, really great to have you here. Jane, you know, if there was one thing that you were going to take away from all of your international work, you know, what would that be? What would that piece of advice be, particularly for others?
You have to understand the requirements. I think one of the things we've seen some incredible presentations today. What would be really powerful is to be able to bespoke and tailor those for the different markets that we have. So really understanding the need, labour market intelligence, understanding the requirements, and then tailoring and bespoking your solutions to meet those needs. That would be my takeaway. Thank you.
And what a takeaway that is. Thank you very much indeed, Jane. As with the others, we're going to ask you to come back in a few minutes to do some questions and answers. But first, we have Tanya Popeau. She is from Synthesis. She was here last year showcasing her brilliant work. She's just done a dash from one meeting to another. So we're really grateful. She's just managed to make it in time, which was just perfectly timed, of course. Tanya meant to be, as we know. So over to Tanya. We can see your presentation and we just saw you on camera. So there you are.
Wonderful. Just once again, thank you so much for inviting me back this year. It's a real honour. And also what a fantastic eye-opening presentation from Jane earlier on. Incredible to see so many speakers talking about sustainability, particularly in this year that we've had in 2025. I'm just going to talk to you a bit about what I've done so far, a bit about Synthesis, and yeah, invite any questions. So Synthesis is an award-winning agency. I focus very much on using innovation to drive social and environmental impact globally. We've worked with a range of different companies from corporates. I also lecture globally. So I've lectured at Exeter, Warwick Business School, and I've also worked with a range of some of the larger corporates from Amazon to Lego to HSBC, really designing a range of innovations. Some of them are new technologies, others are new ways of working, new strategies, really to drive positive global change. So I just want to provide you a little bit of insight about my programme and the way it works. So it's really a 4-stage programme that focuses on how you would use innovation to drive sustainability. We start with generating ideas. We then look at where you would prototype and test those ideas. Of course, the implementation and global change, global solutions. So just over the next few minutes, what I'm going to explore with you is the current sustainability landscape, which so many of you have touched on brilliantly earlier on, how you would design for sustainable impact, how you would even begin to explore a social or an environmental challenge, and then how you might generate ideas. And finally, I'm going to share some case studies that some of them I've worked on, some of them are more kind of international case studies. So just this overarching slide, I think within sustainability, there are multiple opportunities, of course, to drive positive social and environmental change, but particularly in business, there's a major opportunity to drive commercial revenue and commercial profit that I think sometimes is left out of the sustainability landscape and left out of the narrative. And I think it's okay for business to talk about driving profit, driving revenue at the same time driving change. And if you look at this stat, it really demonstrates there's an opportunity gap in that 45% of businesses are yet to incorporate the UN SDGs into their model, despite how far down the line we are. But yet 96% of consumers are expecting to see more around the United Nations SDGs. So there's a real opportunity for business and wider organisations to embed social and environmental change and impact into what they're doing, which is only going to increase their productivity. Often I'm asked, in terms of innovation, what does that mean and how does it differ from traditional kind of project cycles? I just want to take you briefly through this slide. Often what happens now when people go to develop a new idea, a new technology, a new way of doing something, they tend to focus on the solution, starting with the solution. Maybe there's a quick discussion in their teams, but they very much focus on the solution. When we focus on sustainability, more of what we focus on is starting with the challenge. So really deconstructing the social or environmental challenge that you've chosen as a team or as a business to focus on. This is a bit more of a vulnerable position to start because you have no idea where the solution will lead you to. However, what it does tend to lead to is more targeted and effective solutions which scale much more easily. Often, going back to the old way, people tend to have long pilot to test the idea. When we prototype, we look at designing rapidly a minimum viable product, and we prototype very quickly over a 6 to 8 week period to really gain feedback from stakeholders and crucially from the end user, from the community that we're really trying to work with. And of course, within my program, I have models of how you would do that. Going to the left-hand side, and I hear this so much in government and in public sector, if you continuously work with the same stakeholders, you get the same results. And in innovation, we want to broaden the pool of stakeholders we work with and encourage new networks, entrepreneurs, think tanks, and as I said, people from the communities on the ground to design with us so that we come up with solutions that actually work. And lastly, what we tend to do is be very kind of protective with our ideas and our solutions, when really what we should do is take more of an open source approach. I've done this with many teams globally, and actually what happens is people step in to help. Maybe they're working on a particular technology in Australia that can help you in Dubai, and I've just seen those connections take place. So that's really how the innovation project cycle differs. Just to give you a notion, an idea of what the cycle looks like, as I said, we'd start with examining the challenge. We generate ideas. The crucial side is around designing and testing ideas that many companies don't do enough of. Then we make the case, we lead to implementation, and we grow, scale and spread, and eventually change the system. And this is a process that I take teams through throughout the model and throughout the program. So as I said, most people start with quickly developing a solution, but really where you should start is exploring the challenge. And often we don't spend enough time examining and framing the challenge, which leads to us designing services and products that don't meet the needs of the end user. We start exploring the challenge by asking the right questions. Let me give you an example of a case study. There was a team in Stamford that wanted to focus on the issue of premature babies. 20 million babies are born worldwide prematurely, and 4,000 of these babies die in developing countries because of hypothermia. So a team in Stanford University, they wanted to focus on how we could address this issue. So the original challenge they came up with was, how do you build a better incubator? They went into the field, they spoke to mothers, they spoke to doctors, they spoke to clinicians, and they realised they were asking themselves the wrong question. And the real question they should be asking themselves is, how do you keep a baby warm? Because that is the root cause of the challenge. They did some more discovery, more innovation process, and they realised there were two key issues. One was around affordability. Incubators are very expensive. And the second was around accessibility. And often, particularly when families and mothers are in rural areas, when they try to take their babies to hospitals, often they're based in the cities and the babies die en route. So armed with this information, they went back to the drawing board, having consulted their stakeholders, and they came up with a very different solution, which you can see is the miniature sleeping bag on your screens. You can see how understanding the challenge, starting with the challenge, reconstructing, reframing, and then working with a range of stakeholders, particularly with the end user themselves, leads to a very different result, which is often cheaper, more effective, and is much more targeted. I know that these sleeping bags have been tremendously successful and made a massive difference in Ukraine. Finally, just to touch on a few global case studies that I've worked on. So this was a private public sector partnership. The private sector is Baidu, so Baidu being the equivalent of Google in China. And they teamed up with the United Nations to address the issue of e-waste. Now, of course, in China, they have a massive population size, so electronic waste is a major issue. What they did was get together to develop an app. and the app connected the end user, so the individual, with a local disposable unit. They could then tell the local disposable unit to come and pick up their electronic waste. They would take it away, strip it of the relevant materials, recycle what they could, and then dispose the rest of it safely. You'll see this app scaled to 22 cities across China and has led to multiple electronic goods being saved and recycled. One final case study I want to focus on is UNICEF Zambia. They were desperately trying to increase the reach, get their medical kits into the rural areas. Who has some of the biggest distribution channels in the world? Coca-Cola. You'll see in your screens, they ergonomic medical kits to sit on top of the Coca-Cola crates, and overnight they were able to increase their medical reach by 30 to 40%. You can see innovation to drive change is not only about technology, but sometimes design and systems, working in collaboration to design new systems, can lead to dramatic, significant, positive change. And I'll leave you there. You can just see some feedback from the United Nations, from Unilever, and from an ESG advisory individual that I worked with. I'll give you a few moments just to read the feedback, and then I'll finish off by saying here's my QR code, my details, and my email address. And if any of you have any questions, please do reach out to me in various ways. And thank you very much.
And Tanya, well done. Hey, look, seamless that was. Really, really good. And great to hear, actually. You've got some really applied examples there of kind of technology and green skills, and looking at how that weaves into sustainability for the long term. And I think you're looking at it in the complete round as well, which often people don't do. So that's really great to do that. And I think the bit that I really like is you're showing people how to do that and how to implement it. And I think that's really, really key to what we're trying to achieve here and across the world. If I could ask all the speakers to come back on now, we are going to have a Q&A session. Let's go from there. So if all the speakers could come back, that would be fantastic. And then we'll have 15 minutes or so of questions and see where we go from there. So if Graham's around, no sloping off now. We're not done just yet. Good. Okay. So really, really interesting, very diverse range of speakers from a really cleverly mixed up group of companies. And I think this just goes to show how complex the skills landscape is. And actually, if I was doing a presentation, I would show what looks like a chemical chart type grid of all the assets and facets to the skills system, because literally, whether it's English language, artificial intelligence, whether it is green skills inclusion, apprenticeships, boot camps, there are literally hundreds of different things that we do in the skills space. And I think people often think that skills is a second choice, bad choice, and anyone that knows me will know that I will not tolerate that kind of phraseology. For me, that skills is a first choice, every time choice, never a second choice or a bad choice. So so I'm really in the space of making sure that we have the right skills for the right jobs. And I think we sometimes spend too much money at universities on big fancy courses when actually something more simple is required, and that is literally going across to get some skills. Now, a couple of questions in the chat, I think, to start with. So let's go there. So I'm going to throw this question to all of you, because you'll all have different ways of engaging, but how can training institutes from overseas, I guess, partner with UK providers in their global work? So who wants to pick that up first? Jane.
I'll do it from a sort of a global perspective. I'm wearing the UK Skills Partnership hat. I think you've come to the right place. So you come in, I think, being very clear about what the ask is. So actually being really clear about the types of skills solutions, and if you don't know, being clear that you don't know, but looking at the outputs. What is it you want to achieve by that engagement? And if you come through the UK Skills Partnership channel, we can then collectively identify the partners that are going to be best able to help you. Now, obviously, others are going to have a different response, because it might be very pertinent to what you've offered today. So that's my response to it right now.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to talk about how they can engage with you? Graham?
Yeah, I'll do that. We work with hundreds of training providers all over the globe. It depends on what sectors you're interested in, which is, I think we're strong into construction, engineering, manufacturing, technology, and green skills. If that's an area that you're interested in, then I think we on our slide we had the email address, so it's international@nocn.org.uk. Email us and we'll open a conversation with you.
Great. And just on presentations and that, we will be sharing those at the end of SkillsFest at the end of the week. We're going to compile all the recordings, all the presentations, plus any additional materials that each of the providers that have spoken share this week. And we'll make it look pretty, and it'll all be open access on the UK Skills Partnership. So no one has to worry. It will all be there for you. So great. OK, next question that I've got is around the role of skills organisations in creating resilience in economies. So this is a question that is really related to, I guess, the application of skills and how it makes a difference. And those of you that know me again will know that one of my big questions is, so what? You know, so what, Graham, if you do all these green skills? You know, so what, Nicola, if you're, you know, the world's best at nuclear skills? And so what, George, if you're really brilliant at project management? What difference does it actually make on the ground? And how does that help other people create that resilience they need and that growth and that prosperity in their country? So anybody want to talk around that? Because that's quite a complex issue. What are you doing, I guess, in that space to make sure that what you delivers have impact? How about that as a question? So how do you measure impact? No? That's
a good question, Jonathan. Very good question. I think thinking about NSAN's work in Western Canada, as I mentioned on our presentation, nuclear is a new industry to the province that we're working in. They've got a fantastic history and skill set within mining. So we're certainly starting with a blank sheet of paper in terms of that nuclear context and understanding of what's different about nuclear. But actually, it's understanding the current skill set and how, as a training provider, you can help harness the expertise they've got in other industries and sectors, but provide that nuance of that nuclear top up, if you like. And particularly in Western Canada, where we're currently working, they have quite a large Indigenous population as well. So actually understanding the differences within the communities and the geographies within some of the more remote communities, and how you can actually deliver impactful skills provision to them.
Great, thank you, Nicola. Tom.
Thanks, Jonathan. From I guess more restricted to project management, there's in 2018 the Association for Project Management became the chartered body for project management, and with that they established there's 29 competencies relating to project management that help people build towards becoming a chartered project professional. So from a learning landscape, we support clients with doing competency assessment to benchmark them on a global scale, but also taking that away from the kind of holistic and down to the company perspective. We work in collaboration with companies to really understand the areas that they are weaker in and looking to develop in. And we quite often work with them to carry out a gap analysis to understand their employees in more detail, understand where there's common threads that they're not as strong in, and then we build training programs aligned with best practice to basically bridge the gap. It's a really slick process, and basically what that does is make sure that rather than sheep dipping delegates through programs, we actually have focused training programs that deliver the benefit that the clients need to improve.
Okay, so just to be devil's advocate then, because there's an answer in there, right? And I'm going to get it out of you. Yeah. But that so what, right? So you build competencies, they're aligned to training programs. So what? What does that actually do for a business?
Yeah, I mean, the reality, going back to our presentation, it's about being able to deliver standard solutions. So it's, if you're working in a business delivering projects, then what you want is to understand that when you're planning for a program and a project, actually you deliver the output that you expect to, building those core competencies, making sure that everyone has that common understanding as a foundation, means that actually project teams can work together to deliver those solutions.
Okay, all right. So I think what you're trying to say is that actually this is about, making sure we've got a skilled workforce that works efficiently, that stops wastage in companies, in projects and all of that, and that you squeeze the best out of your budgets and your people because they're all really well trained and they can do the job really well. And that delivers, a financial benefit to the company as well as a corporate benefit generally, but also to individuals because they are better at their jobs and they get on in life and all of those kind of good things that we're all trying to achieve. Would that be fair to say, Tom?
That's fair to say. Also, if you plan to deliver a project with a 10% profit, what you want is the output with a 10% profit with a happy client that then you get repeat business, and that's what it helps you deliver.
Brilliant. But I'm just trying to cover that because Phillip mentioned obviously occupational standards quite a lot in his presentation as well, and they are designed to upskill people to a common standard. But the benefit of that is that we kill less people, we injure less people, we use less materials, all of those kind of good things that happen, and all of that turns into money. And so for businesses to really get them on the path of competencies, you've got to turn the skills language into monetary language, because that's the only language the shareholders really understand.
Yeah, agreed.
Good. Graham, you're number one. I love this number one, number two. It makes on the screen easier. Graham.
I think you probably said it all for us now, Jonathan. But I think what we are finding, there's clearly the inputs, but we're finding that people want to be got to an international standard so they can move country, and they know they've got the right sort of quality so that if they're working in a business, they can be productive, they can be competitive, they can make great goods and all of those things. More and more people are starting to measure, have you got somebody into a job? Is that job sustainable? And are they still in a job? Or where is the job? Have they moved country, which is what they wanted to do? And we're collecting more and more of that data now. We've also got a number of case studies where we've worked with businesses that have then reported back the bottom line. We've had 100 people trained in here, and we made those efficiency savings, or we developed the business and we were more efficient. So I think there are a number of things that are being measured, but in many countries, certainly if we look across the Gulf, Indian subcontinent into ASEAN, where there is relatively high numbers of young people that are not employed, the big driver is get them into worthwhile jobs. And that's the starting point. I know there's a lot beneath that and it's more complicated, but more and more people are driving us to be able to demonstrate that sort of ability. Yes.
Yeah. And that's also a UN Sustainability Development Goal, I think number 8, if my memory serves me right. It's about high quality work and sustainable work. So, if you can do a great job around that, you're actually hitting an SDG, which most people wouldn't even think they're hitting. Jane, you're number 1 now. It's over to you.
Well, I think it's all been said really well now. I think for me and Skills for Inclusion, it's about social and economic inclusion. It's all about making the change that has a lasting impact. And I think finally, it's about building capability in countries. So building lasting relationships, but building that capacity and capability to be able to scale up and continue sustainable delivery.
Brilliant. Thank you. And George.
Yeah, just very quickly. Thank you, Jonathan. I'm sure you'll all remember Tom's first slide, which talked about a need for 25 million additional project managers coming into the near future. Project management is an international language. It transcends borders, it transcends industries. It's the same everywhere. If you talk to a project manager in Panama and you talk to a project manager in Hong Kong about the problems they've got, it's the same problems. So the other thing about project management is it delivers results that are measurable. There's plenty of examples on the internet of major projects that have failed and the reasons that they failed. And it comes down to the same problem: scope management, planning, resources, cost management.
Absolutely.
It's the same problem. So project management is that international language, and it's a really important language.
Brilliant, thank you. Next question is really, a lot of what we do is focused on students, and obviously, we want to be kind of leaning towards industry and employers. But what are you doing in the space of actual institutions and supporting institutions to grow? Because my experience overseas, is as extensive as Jane's, if not more sometimes in different circles, but only because literally I go around the world and they come out of college or secondary education, they go off to university, they become teachers, and then they end up in teaching institutions, and then they stay there forever, right? And I've met people that have been teaching that think they're really good teachers after 40 years. They've never worked teaching subjects they've read from books, and so it really lacks that applicability. What are each of you doing in that space of the institutional growth? And I guess coupled with that is around leadership and governance. So, how do you get upstairs in those institutions to educate the leadership? Because, depending which country you're in, usually the most useless person can end up upstairs in the management, or maybe it's the best person. I have no idea, but it can be really difficult. And so how do you bring about institutional change and buy into an employer and industry focused type skills? Because usually it is very supply led rather than demand led. Nicola, you've got your hand up, and in your industry, of course, it's all about the industry.
Very much so. Thanks, Jonathan. Yeah. Part of the National Nuclear Strategic Plan for Skills that was launched last year, one of the 15 work streams is around sector experts into training. And that's a real pinch point within the nuclear industry. If you think about the salaries that you could draw working in the nuclear sector versus working in education and training, delivering, and I'm talking about very, very nuclear technology specific training, there's a huge pay gap. So actually part of the National Nuclear Strategic Plan for Skills, there is an investment in developing sector experts into training. So it's something that we're very much looking at in the industry currently. Thinking about what we're doing internationally with our work with Saskatchewan and the licensing of training, NSAN are going to spend the first sort of 12 to 18 months delivering training remotely to the province, whilst in the background supporting Saskatchewan Polytechnic to develop their own capability and competence by growing their own expert trainers within nuclear. So it's kind of a two-pronged attack. We're delivering the training initially, but supporting the Polytechnic and institutions within Canada to be able to grow and develop their own to future-proof delivery.
Thank you, Nicola. Yeah, love that. So you're doing some delivery, but building capability and capacity, creating legacy of training in country. Phillip, you're number one now. It's over to you.
Thank you. I just wanted to pick up actually, and you made reference to this, Jonathan, about that supply-led provision of where we are at the moment, and that's a big aspiration of the project that we're developing, is to shift the training and recruitment, or the training and qualifications that feed into our sector away from that supply-led, which is where an employer may look at what's on the shelf and what's out there and think, I might not need 60% of that program, but it's the closest I can get to what I need to do to train these people. But I have to buy it all, or I have to put them all through that one-size-fits-all approach. To what we want is a more demand-led, where an employer could say, we've got a body of workers who are currently working in the water industry, but we're retraining them to move them into gas. They're going to have a lot of transferable skills and knowledge. They're going to be able to lay mains. They're going to be able to lay cables and pipes. we don't necessarily need to train them on that or certify them. What we want is to focus the certification of those people around how do we make them safe and effective and productive in the areas that they don't currently have. And that's one of the things that we want this project to deliver and lead to.
So this is the bite-sized bits, bolting it together, micro-credentials, Lego courses, brick by brick type approach.
Somewhat, yeah. So modularised. I mean, we don't want to cheapen and reduce the kind of the rigour of what the training and the qualifications that people need. But what we would like to be able to do, if you're an employer, is to be able to come to a training provider and say, we need a skill solution for these areas. We've identified they've already got this body of knowledge and skills. We need you to train them on the competencies that they don't have. What can you provide that will address that need?
Yep.
And that it'll take some time to shift to that, but that's the aspiration.
Yeah. I mean, I work with lots of sectors that are doing that really well already, Philip. So it's great that EU Skills is looking at that too. And lots of companies are trying that kind of methodology. And I think young people actually, I've just come back from Indonesia. There was a survey that a company did, a big piece of work, and it was around kind of young people and their shifting attitudes towards skills and learning and all of that. And don't forget, there's lots of young people now that are running companies because of the entrepreneurial state of the world that we live in. And I think that's a brilliant thing, right? But what was really interesting was there was a shift in the way that people want to learn. So people of my age that are slightly over 21 are quite happy to do these big, fat, heavy degree programs and all of. Why are you laughing, Tanya? These big, fat, heavy courses, whereas young people just want to pick up the bits they need, and they do lots of learning in lots of ways. So, quite often people will learn how to fix something in their house by learning on YouTube and all these kind of different things. And none of them are actually courses, right? They're just bits and pieces that they bolt together and they make up their kind of competence in that way. And I think that is a shift, not only for us as a market, but it is a shift globally around the generational change in learning, in the modality of learning, because of course information is so much more freer than in 1985 when I left school.
And I think employers are going to be looking for more return on their investment, aren't they, in their staff and their workers? They want to make sure that it's been spent properly and effectively.
Hence the question earlier about the so what question. What's the impact for employers and what does that return? Graham, you're number one now. Your turn.
Right. I'll just follow on from what's just been said, because the idea of modularization can be used to build capacity up to international standards. And we've been doing that for about 5 or 6 years by taking within country, that's the skills you've currently got out of your institution. Here's the gap. We will now train you on the gap and get you to that level. So I think that's part of capacity building. But in my experience, you've got to work with government agencies at one level to actually talk to them about the problem and how you might solve it. You've got to work with state agencies, and you've got to work with those countries that have got sector skills councils, because they are. I'm saddened by the decline of our sector skills councils, if I'm honest, whereas the rest of the world seem to be building them. So you've got to work with those and help them, one, understand, and two, start to build capacity. Build the understanding of the tutors, build the understanding of the assessors, give them the modules that they need, but don't try to give them a complete degree when all they need is 6 or 7 add-on modules. And by approaching it in that way, you help to build capacity in a meaningful and helpful way.
Well said, Graham, especially the point about sector skills councils. We love them. Tanya.
Yes, I just want to build on what you were saying, Jonathan, in terms of obviously the unconventional learning proposals, and also when you said the so what, just to give a bit of a case study I was listening to the other day on Pakistan. And what they said is they were looking at the national grid, and they were looking at energy consumption, and they were looking at it decline, and they very dramatically, and they could not understand why. What had happened was local communities had started to view YouTube sessions and understood that they could actually quite rapidly, and as I said, the minimum viable product, develop their own solar panels, and were placing them very simply on their own houses, and therefore were bypassing the national grid. And so a huge amount of energy consumption is coming from locally made solar panels. A great example of what happens when you can bypass kind of traditional learning. You give people basic skills in a very, very simple mode, but actually it needs to it leads to significant change and significant positive environmental impact. I thought I'd just share that case study.
Very good.
I think that's a really important case study to be sharing. That just goes to show how that follows through, right? So that's really what you're after, and you know, this happens quite a lot in different places. So and people just pick up the skills they need and carry on with life, right? They don't need these kind of big, heavy, and actually really expensive programs, you know, to go to university and then not end up in the job they want, or, you know, like in India, I hear all the time, you know, I'm not getting the skilled people that I need in my business. So, you know, and it's not just an Indian thing, that's a global thing, right? So, and we have it in the UK too. I'm conscious of time, so I have a question for each of you, and it's the same question. So what do you see as the top 3 global skills that your industry or your sector that you're working in primarily requires, and what are you doing about that? It's a really blunt question, I'm afraid, but this is partly to do with kind of how you can demonstrate your space. So Tanya.
I'm going to build on what you said in terms of leadership, Jonathan. I won't quite repeat it if you said it, but it was very honest and candid. 2 things I need, I see, obviously working in that kind of social environmental impact. We are in uncharted territory, and we need innovation to drive our way forward. I think sustainability, we talk too much about stopping doing things, recycling, doing things. The truth is that we need to find new ways of doing things, which is going to require innovation, new training, new skills. Basically, the future we know, or that we will experience, we know it, we just don't know how we're going to get there. And that requires a huge amount of innovation. So there's that side of things. And in order to drive this forward, we're going to need a tremendously strong leadership, you know, both at governmental level, but also within business. And it's a leadership that requires us to say, we have no idea how we're going to get there. We don't fully understand how we'll arrive at the end result, but we must do so, and we will. And that takes a certain level of skill and leadership that is quite unique, I would say.
I totally agree with you, right? So normally, if we'd have been in a face-to-face presentation and I was doing presenting, and certainly on the world stage, I normally get everyone to hold up one of these things called a mobile phone. And, you know, in that dark age, when I was a young person and I sat in the bank for the first time for my first bank account, and somebody walked in with a mobile phone, that mobile phone was the size of a car battery, and it only made phone calls. You couldn't even send a text, right? So now we can run our lives from these things. We don't have to step out of bed, right, let alone into another room. So I guess the point is, you know, you've got the technology that created this, you know, touch screen businesses that run through apps. So, you know, the Just Eats of the world and all of that, you know, I mean, where did that all come from, right? So, you know, and that's you, me, and everybody else making all use of those apps, but somebody's making money out of a few digital things on a screen. So this is stuff that, you know, a few years ago, everyone had an ambition in their mind, but actually we didn't have a way of getting there. It just kind of evolved and happened. And so we're equipping young people today in school with skills that to do jobs in 20 years that we can't even see, right, or imagine right now. That's the kind of scenario. And I think that's a really interesting responsibility, and a big responsibility for all of us that are involved in education.
Absolutely.
I need to whiz along because I'm conscious of time, but Jane,
okay, I'm going to come in with I'm going to come in with one, which is foundational skills. People call them soft, people call them core. I'm going to say they're foundational. You can't do anything unless you have these skills. And I'm echoing a little bit here, but the skills that are critical within there is critical thinking, problem solving, digital skills, numeracy, literacy, language, how to work in different environments, so that they allow you to be able to transition and build new technical skills as you move in your career. Nobody's going to be in the same career they start off in. We're not. And so therefore we should expect people to be able to transition, build those foundational skills into everything we do, and you prepare people for change. Thanks,
Jane. Graham.
I'll add, I won't repeat that because a lot of good stuff there, but it's resilience and the ability to change quickly and not be frightened of change. And that's actually, yes, in leadership, but it's all the way down the structure, in truth. Yes, right the way down to the front line. So and those are the soft skills that are now very
and
critical.
I think that applies to mature workers too, right? So it's all workers, as you've said, because the older you get, the more stuck in the ways you can get. So actually to kind of constantly test yourself and move yourself is really important.
Yeah.
Good, Philip.
I think it's quite telling that the three things that I've come up with have already been mentioned. So just very quickly, it's the ability to learn and master new technology and emerging technologies, the people skills, so collaboration and communication, because nobody's ever going to work in isolation, regardless of what role they're in. And it's the point about adaptability and flexibility, because even if they stay in the same job, that job is going to change and the sector they'll work in will change.
Yeah, we're already seeing that, I guess, with the evolution of AI and some jobs kind of changing shape because of that. So yeah, great. Tom.
Yeah, likewise, not wanting to repeat things because the foundational skills, I couldn't agree more with what Jane said. The one that I had, which is pretty critical for what we do, is getting people to be commercially astute and understand that actually everything they're doing is delivering value for stakeholders, and joining the dots between the technical side and that commercial element is critical.
I totally agree with that, and I think it doesn't matter where you are, actually, whether you're in industry, in a training provider, in government or whatever, you've got to have that commercial nous, because at the end of the day, everything's got to be financially sustainable in some way, right? It needs oxygen to breathe, and Jane will tell you, I bend her ear about it all the time, and if we are doing something for nothing, we should stop doing it, because free has no value.
Yeah, and it's lost sometimes, that whole part of it. I think it's important not to shy away from it.
Yeah, it's a sensible part of the conversation. Nicola.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan, and absolutely not going to repeat what everybody else has just shared, but wholeheartedly agree with everything that the other speakers have mentioned. But specifically to nuclear and the nuclear workforce assessment that was undertaken last year, there was 11 critical skills identified for UK nuclear industry, covering a whole range of things, but three sort of really core and critical areas are around project planning and controls, welding and radiation protection. We still don't know how we're going to crack that nut within the sector. It's something that we're working on. But in addition to that, over-engineering, nuclear likes to make things special and complicated, which can often draw out timelines, increase resources, budgets, costs. So lots for us to still work at within the sector.
I'm sure your sector is not alone on that. So look, we're at time. Thank you very much indeed. I just want to quickly run around the room and just say, look, how can people engage with you? Tanya, give us 10 seconds and then we'll run around the room, just making sure that people can get in touch. So Tanya.
Absolutely. Well, I offer a free kind of webinar, a consultation, and I have LinkedIn. You can contact me directly on my email, which is all in the presentation. Happy to chat. Thank you.
Great. Graham.
Send us an email at international@nocn.org.uk and we can start a conversation.
Brilliant. Philip.
Same, LinkedIn, email. Everything I'm doing is driven by people talking to me and me listening. So everyone and anyone, please.
Great, thank you. If you just drop your details into the chat as well, some of the people online will pick that out, and we'll make sure, obviously, that your slides are shared at the end of the week. We're going to George next.
If you're sharing our slides, there's QR codes on our slides. You can reach us via our website, via LinkedIn, or via our inquiries email address.
Thank you so much. And Tom?
My name is George. Obviously, we're on here together, and I've just shared my LinkedIn in the chat.
Brilliant, thank you. And Nicola, you get the last word. Jane's already done a runner.
It's not often I get the last word, Jonathan, but thank you. I'll take full advantage. I've dropped my my LinkedIn link within the chat, but our QR code was on our slide pack for anybody that wants to connect with us. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much indeed. I just need to bring it to a close if I can. So Tom and George and Nicola and Graham and Philip and Jane and Tanya, of course, doing a marathon run between meetings. Thank you so much indeed for sharing your expertise. Just a reminder to everybody listening, SkillsFest is on all week. So we have sessions every morning at 8 o'clock this week, and then at noon on so Wednesday and Thursday, and then 4 o'clock this afternoon, and on Wednesday and on Thursday. So there'll be 11 sessions in all. All the recordings, presentations, and additional materials will be made available once SkillsFest has concluded. Wherever you are in the world, thank you very much indeed for joining us. I'm Jonathan Ledger from the Department for Business and Trade, and it's goodbye from all of us. Take care.